Tell me, when did you fall in love with tattooing? Can I sit next to you?
Well, I'm still falling in love with tattooing, but I got interested in it back in '74, So when I went to get some old work I had covered up, only to discover that it was illegal within the city limits, I got even more interested in about '75 when, as I was getting old work covered up in Mount Vernon, no one would tell me anything about tattooing.
Right.
So then, by 1976, my interest was whetted enough that I began tattooing myself.
And you didn't care that New York didn't deem it legal?
Hell yeah, I cared. But when I first started, every time the phone rang, I would jump, but I think it would be the cops that were going to bust me.
But look at you, still going. 2013.
Yeah, I did it 20. I bootlegged for 20 years, 21 years. I mean, a long time. But eventually, I got over jumping every time the phone rang.
Right. So, how do you feel about the Bowery now and all the changes that have been going on?
Well, it's not the Bowery that I lived on for 34 years, for sure. And changes, what to feel about it, I mean, when I first built the Whole Foods down there, I thought, who the hell is going to come down here and build a Whole Foods?
And now they have condos above Whole Foods.
You bet, yeah, exactly, and all up and down the Bowery.
Well, Bowery Boogie, that's what we do. I'm being the historian there. Yeah. We try to preserve as much as possible. And this piece is going to tell the history of Bowery tattooing and the sailors and the merchants. And
we tried to save the building that we lived on in the Bowery. McGurk's.
So I wrote about McGurk's, and I mentioned you and Mihai because he told me you were the caretaker there.
No, I don't know about caretaker, but I lived there for 34 years.
Tell me a haunting. Tell me one haunting.
Well, I used to have this piece of sculpture that hung from the ceiling, and more often than once, I would nobody would be in the place, nobody would be moving around, but that piece would be
the sculpture.
Yeah, it would be.
Do you think it was one of the prostitutes?
Yeah. Could have been. Yeah, could have been.
Carbolic acid suicide?
Yeah, well, that was the only one. There was one carbolic acid suicide that I knew of. That was a young woman, about 15, 16, I think she was.
There were four.
There were four carbolic acid.
And then there was one that was a failed attempt.
Well, there was one that a whole crowd of people walked to the pharmacy with her to watch her buy the carbolic acid, and then they marched back in front of McGurk's, and she slugged it down.
You know how many preservationists tried to stop that from being torn down? And there's nobody we know besides you that actually lived there, and Mihai.
Well, myself, Kate Millett lived in there for a lot of years, and amongst us, we tried to get it to get the building preserved. Aside from it being McGurk's, it was also, I read somewhere years back that it was the first establishment in New York to have a neon sign as well.
Interesting. It was a restaurant, and it was also a German beer hall before McGurk's bought it over.
Right next to it, in fact, was the German garden that ran from 3rd Avenue to 2nd Avenue.
Great. Look at you. I don't even have to tell you anything. You can be the history. Do you consider yourself a legend?
In my own mind, maybe. That's about it. Yeah. No, I don't. I just, I'm just a guy doing what he likes to do. As simple as that. No, I don't. I'm not a computer person.
So if I print some articles out and bring them to you, will you read them?
I can read. I can promise you that. I do know how to read.
Okay.
Which used to be exceptional amongst tattooers, I understand.
Opinion on Mildred Hull?
Millie Hull, she's probably one of the first female tattooers that I've ever heard of. I think that's her.
Yeah, that's her.
Yeah.
Sad what happened to her?
I don't know whatever became of her.
She committed suicide.
Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah. I had no idea. Yeah.
So the piece I'm doing on you has her in it, Charlie Wagner,
of course,
and then the Moskowitz brothers.
Yeah, they were down there.
Bowery Inc.
Bowery Inc. I don't know.
Bowery Inc. is the Moskowitz brothers. Their brand of ink. I think Angela has some over there.
That's
yeah. Yeah.
Thought you meant INC.
No. But we're gonna. The end of it all will be you and Mihai and Fine Line and just.
Well, it was us that brought it back to the Bowery, that brought tattooing down to the Bowery. And the fact of the matter is, I was totally blind to that fact. When I first started tattooing down there, I didn't realize that it had such a history. I had also read somewhere one of the first exhibitions of a heavily tattooed person was on the Bowery, basically right across the street from where I lived there.
Really?
In 1876 or something like that.
The first exhibition? I'd have to check on that. Definitely in the mid 19th century.
Yeah.
So
it was the first.
You're not far off.
That's what I read somewhere. I forget even where I read it. But I was surprised with that as it was basically right across the street from 295.
Yeah, tattooing actually started in the Wall Street area, and that became more sea merchants. So the sailors had to move inland, if you will, to get away from the government and the counting houses, and the Bowery became the it place under the elevated train.
Well, I had read something years ago that one of the first tattooers in the city, what's the guy name? German.
The barber?
Dieter Brandt or something
Yeah.
like that. He was an itinerant German tattooer that tattooed across enemy lines during the Civil War in the 1860s.
That's great.
And then when the war was over, he moved to New York here on Grove Street, and he tattooed people there out of his parlor,
Right.
which gave us the term tattoo parlor.
Do you call this a parlor or a shop?
It's a studio.
Studio. Okay. Is there something taboo about calling it a shop or a parlor?
No. Parlor? I don't see the parlor thing.
No.
Does it look like a parlor
No nice
to you?
couches anywhere. Yeah.
No. So
Got it.
I look at it as our studio. Yeah.
Well, I hope you stick around for a long time.
I don't know.
And I love working with your son. Mihai, come here. Mihai looks mad. Finally got to interview your dad.
Yeah.
So, Mihai, any McGurk suicide hall stories you want to share?
I wasn't there.
I thought you grew up there.
Well, I grew up in the building that was once McGurk Suicide Hall.
Right. Did your dad tell you what had happened there when you were little?
No, we didn't even know until...
Yeah, it was a long time before, after I lived there, that I knew anything of the history of it.
No hauntings for you?
Oh, it was definitely haunted.
Oh yeah, there was something wrong with it.
Or strange corners,
Right.
weird feelings in the stairwell, things like that.
Well, it was definitely one of the most haunted buildings,
A lot of
for
people
sure.
were spooked by the stairwell. More than one occasion, people would make appointments and they'd ring the buzzer. I'd tell them, come on up, and then I'd wait and I'd wait and I'd wait, and nothing. And subsequently, I would have occasion that those people did eventually show up and ask, well, why didn't you come up? He goes, I looked up them stairs, man, they looked scary. So
Just the stairs.
Yeah.
Wow.
But also the state of the building. It was a city-run building, so of course it was never maintained. It was in various stages of disrepair by the time we were moved out.
Yeah, indeed.
Where do you live now?
On First Street.
Oh, still on the Lower East Side.
Basically across the street from where I live. Yeah, I used to look out my side window at the building that I live in now. So.
Oh. Well, it's amazing that you're still tattooing. Can I ask you how old you are?
I'm 77.
God bless you, man.
Yeah, me too.
You don't look a day over 60.
Very good. Thank you very much. I just rolled over the big 77. Yeah.
Wow. Happy birthday.
If I knew I was getting this old, I'd have taken better care of myself, to paraphrase an old timer, whoever the hell it was. Yeah.
I think you're doing pretty well.
Thank you.
And I think you're a legend, whether you do or not.